Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to this press briefing on Prime Minister's forthcoming visits to Malaysia and Singapore. In Malaysia, as you know, Prime Minister will be attending the East Asia Summit, the India-ASEAN Summit, and will also be making a bilateral visit to Malaysia. And thereafter, he will travel to Singapore for a full-fledged bilateral visit. To brief you on these two important visits, we have with us today Secretary East, Sri Anil Wadhwa, Mrs. Monica Mohta, Additional Secretary South, and Mrs. Pooja Kapoor, Joint Secretary ASEAN Multilateral. The way we will structure this is Secretary East will give you a broad brush picture of the two visits, which will be followed by a Q&A, and at the end we will also be issuing a press release which will give you details of these two visits. With that, I will request Secretary East now to make his opening statement.
Thank you, Vikas. Dear friends, as GSXP has just told you, the Prime Minister will be attending the forthcoming 13th ASEAN-India Summit and also the 10th East Asia Summit, which is on 21st to 22nd of November 2015 in Kuala Lumpur. And these summits will provide a platform for the Prime Minister also to interact for the second time with leaders of ASEAN and East Asia Summit countries in these regional formats after his first interaction, which happened at the 12th ASEAN-India Summit and also the East Asia Summit in November 2014, which was in Naypyidaw in Myanmar. Prime Minister will arrive in Kuala Lumpur in the morning of 21st November, and he will attend the 13th ASEAN-India Summit in the afternoon of the 21st November. On 22nd November, he will witness, along with other East Asia Summit leaders, the signing ceremony of the 2015 Kuala Lumpur Declaration on Establishment of the ASEAN Community, and also the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on ASEAN 2025, document called Forging Ahead Together. He will attend the 10th East Asia Summit in the afternoon of the 22nd November. ASEAN lies, as you know, at the center of most of the regional dialogue mechanisms and processes, such as the ASEAN Regional Forum, the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, and the East Asia Summit, adding a special significance to our summit interaction. And the ASEAN-India strategic partnership has acquired further momentum after the enunciation of the Act East policy by the Prime Minister at the 12th ASEAN-India Summit in Myanmar in November 2014. And that policy conveyed a clear intent on our part to scale up our engagement with the ASEAN countries and the wider ASEAN Asia-Pacific region. The ASEAN countries have also welcomed India's Act East policy. India and ASEAN today have 30 dialogue mechanisms. That includes a summit and 7 ministerial meetings in external affairs, in commerce, tourism, agriculture, environment, renewable energy, and also telecommunications. In view of the rise of in non-traditional security threats, ASEAN and India are looking to work closely in addressing terrorism, human and drug trafficking, cybercrime, and piracy along the Malacca Straits. And India has also extended support to ASEAN in the field of natural disaster management. The core of the ASEAN-India partnership is economic. ASEAN is India's 4th largest trading partner today, and India, in turn, is the 6th largest trading partner for ASEAN. There is a GDP of $2.57 trillion US dollars combined, a population of over 623 million, and a GDP growth rate of about 5% in ASEAN, and it is the 7th largest economy if you combine the ASEAN together in the world. And the ASEAN also has a huge middle-class market that Indian industries and service sector can take advantage of. ASEAN countries, in turn, are looking to benefit from the economic growth of India. Our trade was about 76.52 billion in 2014-15, and our exports were about 31.8 billion. Imports, of course, were 44.7 billion US dollars. The investment flows between ASEAN and India are also substantial. They are growing. And if you look at the figures between April 2007 and March 2015, India invested $38.6 billion in ASEAN, while the ASEAN invested $32.4 billion in India during the same period. So our economic integration process has got a fillip with the creation of the ASEAN-India Free Trade Area, which happened in July this year, after the entry into force of the ASEAN-India Trade in Services and Investments Agreements. We are also negotiating a Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the RCEP. This agreement involves the 10 ASEAN countries and 6 of its FTA partners. That includes India. And that's seen some breakthroughs, and we are expected to conclude this agreement in 2016. Of course, this agreement would enable Indian businesses to tap into the $17 trillion RCEP economy. We are undertaking several projects in ASEAN countries, and those are in agriculture, science and technology, space, environment, climate change, etc., apart from capacity building. In fact, the establishment of a data reception and tracking and telemetry station at Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam is the largest amongst these projects. Also, we are focusing on enhancing connectivity with ASEAN in all its dimensions. That includes physical, digital, and people-to-people, and that's a key priority for India. For example, the India-Myanmar-Thailand Motor Vehicles Agreement has just been finalized, and the negotiations on an ASEAN-India Maritime Transport Agreement are also underway. There are more than 5 million citizens of the ASEAN community who trace their roots to India. And in order to document our contemporary and ancient socio-cultural linkages, we organized in July 2015 the first international conference on ASEAN-India cultural links. The second such conference will be held in Jakarta in January 2016, which will be followed by establishment of joint research projects between our universities. As far as the East Asia Summit is concerned, this is a premier leaders-led forum in the region. It has a significant role in the geopolitical and economic evolution in East Asia. And apart from the 10 ASEAN member states, the East Asia Summit members include India, China, Japan, Republic of Korea, Australia, New Zealand, United States, and Russia. India is a founding member of the East Asia Summit, and our prime ministers have participated in all 9 summits that have been held so far. At the summit, the leaders are expected to discuss matters of international concern. That includes terrorism, irregular migration, the South China Sea, Korean Peninsula, the Middle East situation, etc. And about 7 statements and declarations are expected to be adopted to enforce the leaders' commitment to specific issues. I would also like to add here that there is going to be perhaps a joint statement on the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership negotiations, and that would be a separate ceremony. In addition, the Asia-Pacific Leaders Malaria Elimination Roadmap to eradicate malaria by 2030 is also expected to be endorsed. Now, as far as India is concerned, we have been active in the East Asia Summit context as well, and we have co-hosted, along with Cambodia, the 4th East Asia Summit workshop and dialogue on regional security architecture in the Asia-Pacific region. This was in July 2015 in Cambodia. We also hosted the first conference on maritime security in the Asia-Pacific at the ASEAN-India Center in New Delhi, and that happened in 9th and 10th of November 2015. We have been particularly active in undertaking initiatives in the priority areas of education, disaster management, and global and health issues. Many of you are familiar with India's Nalanda University, which is one of the most visible symbols of cooperation under the East Asia Summit priority area of education. India has also established an East Asia Summit Earthquake Risk Reduction Center and also a virtual knowledge portal on Disaster Management at the National Institute of Disaster Management in New Delhi. Also following the East Asia Summit Roundtable on Trauma Care and Nursing, we hosted at All India Institute of Medical Sciences in October 2015 an East Asia Summit virtual knowledge portal on trauma care and nursing in India. So that's as far as these two summit meetings and processes are concerned. I'd like to, if you, with your permission, go on to the Prime Minister's bilateral visits, which are taking place in conjunction with these summits. And these bilateral visits, as you know, are to Malaysia first and then to Singapore. So these visits take place also from 21st to 24th November. Prime Minister will, of course, be departing from Singapore on the 24th in the evening at 21:55 hours. As far as Malaysia is concerned, first, there are approximately 30 million people in this country and approximately 2 million persons of Indian origin, constituting nearly 8% of Malaysia's population. It is the second largest persons of Indian origin community abroad after the United States. Our trade with Malaysia in 2014 was about 14 billion US dollars, and of course we import about 9.7 billion dollars from Malaysia, which are essentially commodities, and imports are mineral fuels mainly, animal and vegetable oils, and crude products, etc. We also, Malaysia has invested more than $7 billion in India, and it has also completed another $6 billion worth of projects in India, particularly in the infrastructure and construction sector, with the focus on roads and highways, and also upgradation of airports and ports. Our investments in Malaysia are also substantial, around 2.3 billion US dollars, and we have major companies from India like Ircon, like Reliance, Kirloskar, Bajaj, TCS, Mahindra, L&T, and Wipro, etc. are present. The sectors being textiles, chemicals, machinery and equipment, non-metallic mineral products, etc. Our ties were upgraded to a strategic partnership in October 2010 during the visit of our Prime Minister to Malaysia. And as far as the Act East policy is concerned and Malaysia's own economic development is concerned, I think these relationships are poised to jump to the next level. While economic and commercial engagement has increased, there is also scope for improvement in security cooperation, in defense cooperation, etc. And health and education sectors have also potential, which have largely remained untapped. What we will be doing during the visit is issuing a joint statement on enhanced India-Malaysia strategic partnership and to have close cooperation on security. We are also endeavoring to sign an MOU on cyber security during the visit. There are other MOUs which are also under negotiations, like getting English language teachers from India in the field of culture, in sports, performance management, delivery, etc., etc. I would just like to mention a few other things. A bust of Mahatma Gandhi will also be donated for installation at the Gandhi Memorial Hall, and this is in Kedah State. And as far as the program is concerned, the Prime Minister will start this program with attendance at the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit. He will actually address it on the 21st, and will carry out various bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summits on the 21st. There would be an unveiling of the statue of Swami Vivekananda at Ramakrishna Mission at Petaling Jaya. This is on the 22nd. And there would be a meeting with prominent Indian origin, persons of Indian origin in Malaysia who are office bearers and from the political field, besides a community event and reception by, first of all, the High Commissioner, which will be on the 22nd. Then, of course, there would be a welcoming ceremony by the Prime Minister of Malaysia, but also a joint inauguration of Toran Gate with the Malaysian Prime Minister on 23rd, and also an interaction with corporate Malaysia, a visit to Batu Caves Temple, and then the departure in the evening. In Singapore, Singapore being a country with 5.5 million people, the Indian diaspora there is about 350,000 approximately, and bilateral trade with Singapore is about 17 billion. This was 2014-15 figure. Of course, since the early 1990s, Singaporean companies have been very active in India. There is also in the equity market. Singapore has emerged as the second largest source of foreign direct investment in India, about $35.9 billion from, if you take it from April 2000 to June 2015, which is 13.9% of the total foreign direct investment into India. Indian investments in Singapore are about 37 billion as well, so it's a large amount. Singapore is at a strategic location. Its status as financial, aviation and maritime hub with flow of investments, also presence of a large Indian diaspora, and its expertise in urban development and skills vector makes it a very valued partner for India. And Singapore has expertise in urban development and skill development sector. In fact, a world-class skills center is functioning in Delhi. For urban development sector, we are trying to collaborate with Singapore by way of training. And Singapore has agreed to set up a center of excellence in ITI in Udaipur in Rajasthan, and would set up another skill center in Northeast India through train the trainer and consultancy projects in the future. Singapore supports us in the United Nations Security Council for a permanent membership, also reforms in the United Nations Security Council, and has always supported India's entry into ASEAN and the East Asia Summit context. As far as the general focus of the visit is concerned, we would conclude a strategic partnership with Singapore, along with further strengthening our defense relationship, and focus on the 5S plank. The 5S plank being scale up trade and investments, speed up connectivity, smart cities, skills development, and the state focus. And also an enhanced defense cooperation agreement is likely to be signed during this visit, along with some other MOUs related to cyber security, to culture, training in urban management, etc. And a technical agreement, if you remember, was already signed on white shipping information in July 2015. So as far as the program in Singapore is concerned, after arrival on 23rd at around 6 o'clock in the evening, there would be a Singapore lecture delivered by the Prime Minister at around 2000 hours, where the Prime Minister of Singapore is also expected to attend. And the audiences largely consists of policymakers, of think tanks, academics, and the diplomatic community. There would be a breakfast meeting with Singapore businessmen on the 24th, and besides the official events, which is the normal ceremony, welcome ceremony, etc., meeting with the Prime Minister of Singapore, the President of Singapore, and also signing of MOUs. The Prime Minister will lay a wreath at the INA marker in Singapore. He will visit the Institute of Technical Education College, which is involved in skills development, and also address the India-Singapore Economic Convention on the 24th. There would be a brief meeting interaction with selected Singapore CEOs and an interaction with Indian community, after which the Prime Minister will depart on the night of the 24th. So that's what I had to say. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Mukesh Kaushik.
So these summits are taking place at a time when South China Sea controversy is raging. What would be India's stand when the issue will come up?
As you know, India has had a consistent stand on the South China Sea issue. We always consistently propagate the view that any disputes in the South China Sea must be solved through dialogue and in a peaceful manner. Secondly, that the recognized principles of international law, including the UNCLOS of 1982, must be followed in order to settle disputes. Thirdly, that we propagate freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea, which should be unimpeded. And fourthly, we always ask for a speedy conclusion of the implementation of the Declaration of the Code and implementation of the Declaration of Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. We are looking forward to a conclusion of a document between ASEAN and China on this issue as soon as possible.
Akhilesh Suman.
So when you talk about enhanced strategic relationship, what do you mean by that, and what is the major outcome of this enhanced strategic relationship?
No, we are elevating the partnership to a strategic partnership with Singapore. As far as ASEAN is concerned, we already have a strategic partnership. After the Act East policy was enunciated last year, the involvement of India in the priority areas of cooperation has increased, and we are also focusing more on economic activities and on capacity building.
Yeah, Ranjit.
And can you tell us about the progress in India, Myanmar, Thailand highway?
I think the process is on at the moment, and I don't want to go into details, on the trilateral highway. But as we told you in previous briefings, etc., through 2016, this process will continue, and we hope to conclude this process by the end of the year next year. The progress has been good, and approvals for various projects that we are undertaking connected with the trilateral highway are progressing well.
What is the target date for final operational?
Well, the target date was end of 2016 and the beginning of 2017, but it could slip a little depending on what happens as far as India and Myanmar cooperation is concerned, because it's a difficult terrain, and therefore the Myanmarese authorities also have to take some steps to ensure that the work progresses without any hindrances.
So in the wake of the Paris attacks, can we expect discussions on the ISIS, especially because President Obama and other world leaders will also be there for the East Asia Summit? Can we expect that to come up in discussions with Malaysian leaders, with other foreign powers, and also in Singapore?
I think definitely, because this is one of the issues and topics which has consistently been discussed in the East Asia Summit context, especially in the last couple of years. So the focus will definitely be on this topic, especially because we also have a declaration on violent extremism, and I'm sure that there will be delegations which will be addressing this issue.
Sorry, sir, for my sore throat. Sir, in the wake that there has been recent bombings and a firing encounter in Paris, do tell us, there's been a fresh firing report also. What is the concern about Indians in France? The other being also about the role of India, and India said that we'll be fighting shoulder to shoulder with France in war against terror. So how far is India willing to go in this fight of terrorism?
This briefing is strictly in the context of Prime Minister's forthcoming visits to Malaysia and Singapore. I will have my briefing tomorrow, and you can ask this question, but our embassy in Paris has already issued an advisory asking Indian citizens to exercise caution and remain indoors to the extent possible.
Could you provide us some details on which leaders he'll be meeting during the bilaterals on the sidelines of ASEAN, and also which CEOs? It doesn't have to be exhaustive, but just a couple names.
Well, I can just mention to you that the list of leaders with whom bilaterals are being proposed is still a work in progress. But of course, I can confirm that Prime Minister will be meeting the leadership of Japan, of China, and New Zealand. And there would be also meetings perhaps with Vietnam and Myanmar, and a number of pull asides, because normally happens during these visits. I would like to give you the names of the CEOs as well, but that again is something which is work in progress at the moment, because it's a few days away and we don't have the confirmed list as yet.
Manish?
सर, सिंगापुर में एक ऑर्किड का नाम पीएम के नाम पर रखे जाने की बात है. जरा बताएंगे कि उसमें क्या डिटेल है, क्या नाम तय हो चुके हैं, ऐसा कुछ है क्या?
The orchid naming ceremony is not on the schedule any longer. It was being talked about earlier, but due to paucity of time, we had to, forego that visit. So that will not happen during this visit.
Sridhar?
So, any details of the any community, Indian community level receptions planned for the PM in Malaysia or Singapore?
Yes, we have community events which are planned in both places. And in both places, as you've seen, normally the Prime Minister likes to address a gathering of Indian expatriates and Indians who have an origin in India, and I'm sure that same pattern will be followed in both countries this time. Yes, I could give you the exact time in a minute.
So the community event in Malaysia is going to be held on the 22nd of November at 1800 hours local time. The event will be held at the main hall of the Malaysia International Exhibition and Convention Center, known as MIECC. And the Singapore event is at Singapore. The Singapore event is on the 24th at Singapore Expo at 20:15 hours local time. And Prime Minister will depart immediately after that back to India. 20:15 hours Singapore time.
No, it's a full program on each day of the visit.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Santiran from National News Agency of Malaysia. Can you tell us that any specific outstanding issues which likely to be raised by the Indian Prime Minister to his counterpart from Malaysia? Especially on lately there is a recent visit, a work minister says that a lot of outstanding issues, especially the Malaysian contractors involving infrastructure projects here. And then at the same time, the Indian government encouraged more Malaysian investors to invest, especially the Digital India and some other major projects here. So whether during this visit, all these outstanding issues will be addressed? Thank you.
We had a very successful visit by the Minister of Transport and Works of Malaysia, as you know, very recently. And a number of projects have been identified by this delegation. This will require a follow-up, so we expect a follow-up delegation to be here shortly in the future. And of course, if you put it in value terms, about $30 billion worth of projects have been identified. And now, as you know, that there have been a number of completed projects by Malaysian companies in India. You correctly pointed out that some of the projects, there have been some issues with regard to implementation of those projects or delayed payments, etc., which is being undertaken by the High Commission here with the relevant agencies. Some of them are under litigation, so that will follow its own course. But by and large, I think the projects have been well implemented, and some of them which have been implemented a few years ago, especially at the government-to-government level, are working well. So we will be discussing these issues during the visit. I'm sure that the issue will figure during the talks as well. Malaysian involvement in Indian infrastructure is important, but as I told you, that the nitty-gritty of the details about the projects that have run into some problems, that has been discussed separately.
Yeah. From Chinese news agency.
I'm Stacy from Hong Kong Phoenix TV. Because South China Sea issue will be discussed in East Asia Summit too. Can I know what is India's stand about U.S. sending ships and planes close to the territory where China claims as its own territory near South China Sea?
Well, as I already answered, we expect the South China Sea to be discussed because it is a issue facing all the countries as far as the regional security architecture is concerned. India doesn't take a stand on the disputes in the South China Sea and does not favor any particular party. We have a principled position which I just outlined in answer to another question, and we will continue to take that position.
Sachin Parashar.
Sir, could you talk to us a little bit about the status of negotiations for the RCEP, which is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which India is going to be a member of? Thanks.
As I just outlined in my briefing, the RCEP negotiations have proceeded reasonably well. Recently, at the last meeting, there were some expected breakthroughs, and there is an expectation that by 2016 this agreement could be concluded. So it's on track, and as a result of that, the RCEP countries would be also proposing that a declaration be adopted at the summit between the leadership of the RCEP countries.
So during the NAPIDO summit, in fact, both India and ASEAN, we had decided to step up defense and security engagements, as well as improve our communication links, in fact, transport links. So how far we have moved on, in fact, since those decisions were taken?
I think we have made a lot of progress since the last summit. As I told you, the project in Vietnam of a data reception center, which will actually be of great benefit to ASEAN. It's a large project, at least $23 million project in the space field. We'll also link up with an existing project that we've carried out in Indonesia and Biak. And those two projects between them would be extremely beneficial for the ASEAN countries. That's as far as data reception, digital technology, etc. are concerned. We are also moving forward on the projects that we have undertaken in connectivity. We are members, as you know, of the ASEAN India group, which meets regularly or at least twice a year on the issues of connectivity. And we have aligned ourselves with, our projects have been aligned with the ASEAN Master Plan on connectivity. So the trilateral, we have committed that once the trilateral is completed, then we would be taking it further to countries like Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. We also have on the anvil projects of tertiary roads between India and Myanmar once the trilateral is completed. As you know, the Kaladan project is also proceeding at the same time. In addition, as far as the sea linkages are concerned, we had started a pilot project with Myanmar on feeder services, which has done well, and that has encouraged us to see if we can extend that into Thailand and to other countries as well. So we will continue to work on connectivity, land, sea, air, and of course, as you know, in air we have offered 18 points to the ASEAN for flying into India. So we hope that more airlines from the ASEAN would take up this offer. One last point which I wanted to add to your question is that we have also taken a number of projects as far as the cyber security are concerned. So there we organized a workshop here in India which was attended by all the member countries. There's going to be a follow-up mechanism after this which India will undertake, and we have taken the lead in that process as well. On counter-terrorism, there have been exploratory visits by our interagency delegation in July, and we also will be following this up with similar visits to individual ASEAN countries in the future. As far as defense cooperation is concerned, we are undertaking that obviously on a bilateral front with a number of ASEAN countries.
Nayanima Basu.
So will there be also any discussion with Singapore on the reviewing of the CECA agreement? I understand that's been pending for a long time.
I'm certain that the CECA issue will figure in discussions. As you know, negotiators on both sides are engaged in these negotiations, in the review process. There are, as you rightly said, a number of outstanding issues, and they are being discussed already between our negotiators. So at the leadership level, I think there is commitment to completing this process, and I'm sure both leaders will reaffirm this promise. No, there is no deadline.
There being no other questions, this press briefing comes to a close. Thank you all.